Looks like you're gonna get a chance to meet the rest of the family. My psychotic brother just escaped.
I just don't want to spoil things.
Anybody else need more turkey?
No, I'm pretty good, thanks.
I don't like to talk about my brother. It gives me nightmares.
I mean, it is Thanksgiving.
You know, somebody ought to tell him to get inside. Nobody should be out with my brother around.
He looked exactly like Terry, except he had this really wild, crazed look in his eyes.
There's somebody after me and he's chasing me and he's trying to hurt me. You're gonna hurt my kitty. Oh, God.
You're a real sweetheart. You know that? A real sweetheart.
It's not cranberry sauce, Arty. It's not cranberry sauce.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Henrique Couto, here with David D. Neuer.
Greetings.
And it's just about Turkey Day.
It is. Yes, it is. We are, 2 days away from it now?
Well, in theory.
In theory. When you're listening to this episode, the bird is getting ready to be prepped, I think, probably tomorrow at this point.
I mean, you know, if you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that last week on What's Cooking, so...
I mean, yeah, what is it? It's like you need an hour of defrosting per pound of turkey or something like that.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, I probably made that up.
It sounds right to me.
I mean, that's why I assume, that's why I was doubting is because you thought it sounded...
Oh, because I thought it was right.
Yeah, you were like, good idea, and I was like, fuck.
You know, now would be a great time for me to unveil that there's never been just one Dave, and I've actually had an evil twin this entire time.
I mean, I feel like it's not statistically likely for both twins to be
so unbearable,
so utterly. I don't even want to. There's no need for another word.
Oh,
just
yeah,
utterly.
Just utterly. I mean, it's not cranberry sauce. At least there's that.
Well, luckily in tonight's movie, 1987's Blood Rage.
Yes,
it is very thoroughly debunked
that it is not
the idea that
sauce.
It would be cranberry sauce. No, it's said many times.
5 if I remember correctly.
Well, you know, when you're writing a screenplay for a Thanksgiving slasher movie at the ass end of the slasher cycle.
Technically 83, 87 it got released.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it was very cliche for being that early in.
Yeah, 83 is when they shot it.
Wow, man. You'd think when slasher movies were hot, it would have gotten released.
Yeah.
Not when they were they weren't dead. No, they were pretty dead. Like even Jason was about to not be able to get people into the theater anymore. I mean,
the fact of the matter is, too, the movie goes under 5, I think 6 now. I think I found 6 titles altogether.
Well, I mean, it can go by as many names as you want to call it.
Well, I mean, that's very fair.
So, I'm very curious to hear a breakdown of Blood Rage's many releases.
Oh my, Blood Rage got a beautiful Blu-ray release back in 2015, which was the first time I showed it to you, which we'll get into in a little bit. And I deep dived on that son of a bitch last night. I watched every single bit of content on there, including the commentary, with a director who was not very interested in being on that commentary.
Well, you know, maybe a woman directed it, right?
A woman produced it. Marianne Cancer produced it.
That was a lady produced it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, John Grissmer is the director. One of the directors.
Oh, I buy tires at his Grissmer tires.
I just got my car fixed there.
Hey, did he not remember?
What's funny is I think the guy's name, obviously his name wasn't Grissmer, but I think the guy's name that helped me was John, actually, now I think about it.
What are the odds? Actually, very good that a guy would be named John.
It'd be awesome if it was that guy, though. Be like, did you direct Blood Rage? Yeah, I did.
He's like, sure did. There's a poster right there. How'd I never notice that?
Just a mini like museum to blood rage. One of the machetes.
The stupidest, most inside baseball joking about a Dayton area regional chain of auto repair shops.
That would have
That's what we're doing right now.
That would have a tribute to a Jacksonville, Florida shot horror film from the 80s.
Well, I mean, Ohio, we're known for our snowbirds.
Yeah,
we're known for our people who go to Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, both our parents included in that.
Mhm.
Your
Yes.
parents do a Florida trip usually every year, and my mom usually goes every year.
And my grandparents legitimately on my mom's side legitimately were snowbirds for
They had feathers and wings and
maybe legitimately wasn't the right word.
no,
It
it
never
probably
is.
was not.
Anytime I use that word, I fuck it up.
Legitimately.
Legitimately.
Yeah. You did it. You finally did it.
Enrique is right. And
That wasn't
also
the one I meant to hit,
handsome.
but it.
There we go.
Yeah. When you were able to use legitimately correctly, and the fact that you've legitimately
Never
used
said it right.
legitimately poorly. No, why do you feel they're particularly snowbirds?
Because they were snowbirds for like 20 years. Like it would hit October, like the tail end of October, if not mid-October. They would fly down to Florida. Sometimes, very rarely, they would return for Christmas. No, actually not rarely, because they would do the Christmas party. So I guess they would fly back for Christmas and then basically be down there again until like I want to say March.
Nah, sounds about right.
Yeah, they had a trailer and everything down there. Really, I mean, they did that for at least it's got to be at least 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much a definitive snowbird.
Yeah, I would say so too.
So, Grissmer's not even spelled the same.
It's not. I know. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to everybody who happens to be in the Dayton, Ohio area that knows about Grissmer Tire.
Knows about Grissmer. So I would like to ask you something because you've seen 2 movies since we last joined for the podcast. Because you saw Anora and you saw what was the other one? Anora. And then what was the other one? It was you saw 2.
I saw another movie?
Yeah, you saw Anora and you saw something else that I wanted to see.
Oh, I saw Heretic.
Heretic, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did.
Did you enjoy both of them?
Enjoy what?
Heretic and Anora?
No. So I was down in outside of Athens, Georgia a week ago or so, and I saw Heretic with my buddy Andrew. I loved it. I thought it was really good.
I'm dying to see Hugh Grant play a villain.
It's Hugh Grant is at his top form.
Yeah.
He's very, very believable. He's just creepy enough the whole way. Until things go crazy.
Yeah.
It's about this guy who traps 2 Mormon missionary women in his home.
Yeah.
And then basically debates religion with them in a dark and dangerous way.
Ooh.
I would be curious what horror fans, I mean, I've seen a few people praising it because it's a very different kind of movie. It's it definitely slaps the atheists around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which is not usually, you don't usually see that in many movies these days. Hugh Grant is basically, in my opinion, playing like a kind of Richard Dawkins type.
Ooh.
Although obviously very different, but he's kind of, I mean, because the whole concept of being like a highly educated man who like tells you, well, your religion's a lie is a very British thing.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, those are all guys who did that. They're all English. But it's very good. It was written and directed by the team who did Haunt.
Yeah.
And also the writing team behind the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and the writing team behind the first film in the the one where you can't make noises.
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
Sorry.
Thank you. They were the team that wrote the first A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
And I think they did a really great job. The movie seems to be doing pretty well considering its modest budget. I liked it a lot.
Okay. I'm dying to see it.
So then I went and saw Anora because it was playing at a theater somewhat nearby, not the one we usually go to. And I was one of maybe I was one of 3 people in the theater, and I really liked Anora, but it was not at all what I think anyone would expect.
Yeah, from the trailer at least.
Well, kind of. I mean, the thing is, it's a film about a stripper prostitute who ends up meeting this Russian oligarch's son, a billionaire's son.
Yeah.
They fall in love in a whirlwind to get married, and then his people that represent his family show up, and they're like, "You guys are getting an annulment."
Yeah.
And then the whole movie is them trying to get this annulment. You think it's going to go in this scary thriller direction, but not really.
Okay.
The movie pretty much takes place entirely in reality.
Okay.
So it's actually a lot more awkward and funny and stressful than it is like action-packed and suspense.
Uncut Gems stressful?
No.
Okay.
No, because Uncut Gems isn't realistic.
Yeah.
It's everything's. I mean, that's not a dig. I love Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
But you know, Uncut Gems, it's like if Uncut Gems was played through a guitar amp, they turned the gain way up. You know. No, Anora is just like they set everything up and then it just kind of plays, in my opinion, as realistically as it would.
Okay.
Which is very surprising. And again, it's very funny, it's very awkward, it's very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And very sad.
Ooh.
So I mean, it's hard to say much more about why I loved it without
giving
spoiling
anything
it
away, yeah.
But there's just a lot of really great stuff in that film, and I've heard I'd never seen any of the director's other work, but I've heard that all of his work is really good.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to check out some of his other movies because Anora was just boss.
Hell yeah.
Like it had everything going for it. I think one of my favorite things was hearing people say it was how annoying the characters were completely on purpose.
Yeah.
There's no way that they're accidentally that annoying. That's similar to Uncut Gems.
Okay.
Like there are certain characters, especially the main character in Uncut Gems, that is just so grating. It's on purpose. Yeah. It's meant to get your dander up, piss you off a little bit, make you annoyed.
Yeah.
And Anora definitely does that. And that's another one that it seemed to be a modest expense or a modest budget, and it seems to be doing really well.
Hell yeah.
All things considered. Yeah, I loved it. And it was one of the few movies where I thought that it really earned like the 2 hour and 20-minute runtime.
Yeah.
But in the weird way where instead of being like, I found it gripping all the way through, but it's intentionally drawn out. It's intentionally, I don't want to say boring because that's a little too strong, but it's intentionally drawn the fuck out.
Hell yeah.
To kind of pull you in. But I could, some of my favorite movies, when people say I hate that movie, I'm like, fair, I could see you hating it.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
No, I get that.
That might be in my top 5 of movies in the theater for the year.
Hell yeah, man.
It's been a very good year for movies.
Yeah.
But Anora, I would watch again.
Okay.
Like, Smile 2 was really good. Would I watch it again? Sure, one day.
Yeah.
Cuckoo was awesome. Would I watch it again? Hell yeah. I would watch Cuckoo again right away.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I personally do my tops. It is like how likely would I be to want to revisit this, to need to revisit this? And not every movie that's great has that element to it.
Has that rewatch,
like,
yeah.
I don't know how often I would go see Trap again, or I'd rewatch Trap.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't avoid watching it.
No.
But I don't feel like, man, when Trap comes out, I got to get that 4K. I got to do whatever. That's not the way it was for me.
Yeah.
But Anora was definitely one where I was like, I want to watch that again.
Hell yeah, man.
So, in my top.
Very cool.
So,
looking forward to checking that out then.
What did you do? Nothing?
I really did nothing, yeah, honestly. I mean, my father recently just had rotator cuff surgery, so I got to showed us both a movie last night, Burt Reynolds' movie from 78.
It'd be awesome if you were like, all right, check this out, and then you just sat the other way on the other side of the room. Put in headphones.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I showed my dad this movie. I did not watch it.
But anyway, we watched Hooper from 1978, which is Hal Needham directed it, and Hal Needham and Burt Reynolds were good buddies. He was a very famous stuntman. His resume is very impressive, and he did this movie that's basically a love letter to stuntman that stars Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, a bunch of people from Burt Reynolds' like repertoire over the years of like Longest Yard, White Lightning, all that stuff. Just a really fun movie. Liked that a lot. And then I revisited Practical Magic with my mom last night too.
That's the one with
Nicole Kidman, Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. I remember Sandra Bullock being
supposedly getting a sequel now too.
Of course, because why not?
Because why not?
I mean, we got 300 Part 2 coming out. Fuck it, here it goes.
I forgot about that. God damn it.
I'm very curious to see if that somehow works.
Somehow happens, yeah, for that matter.
And it could be the best movie in the world. I don't know who it's... I mean, I know who it's for. It's for the millennials that will actually go see a movie still.
Yeah. 300 was one of those movies that I really did enjoy it when I rented it back when it came out, like I'm guessing 2007 at this point, maybe even earlier than that, probably 2004. I really liked 300, but I have not had any desire to revisit it in probably the last decade. 300
was a very much a product of its time.
Oh, absolutely.
In that it was an event film. It was a popular culture phenomena.
Was it post Watchmen or was it pre-Watchmen?
It would have been after Watchmen. Okay. It's 2006.
2006, yeah, okay.
And Watchmen, I believe, was 2005.
That sounds right.
Or it might have been the same year.
Yeah, okay.
But no, 300 was a pop culture phenomena. Everybody had to go see it. It was I didn't, but everybody had to go see it.
Yeah.
And you know, it had groundbreaking effects, groundbreaking performances. Some people who were like, destined to become megastars were in that movie. First, Gerard Butler, Lena Headey,
Dominic West.
Yeah. Like it's. There's nothing to hate, in my opinion, about 300.
No.
But, does there need to be a sequel 20 years later?
Especially with how it ended.
Yeah. Does it need a sequel? I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
But they're doing it.
Did Beetlejuice need a sequel? I don't know. But they did it.
Beetlejuice needed a sequel, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing is like 300 isn't, doesn't scream franchise.
No,
like
it really doesn't.
A movie with like a wisecracking ghoul in it, or an action movie with a superhero level gunman who just never manages to die.
Yeah.
Those have always been franchise type things.
Yeah.
But you watch Steel Magnolias and you're like, man, I can't wait for Steel Magnolias 2. It's like, what is that going to be?
Magnolia Harder.
Yeah. It's just don't worry. We've with a team of scientists, we found a way to make a movie that'll make you cry even harder than Steel Magnolias, but it required science.
Science indeed.
Yeah, we didn't bother trying to top it story-wise. So instead we're using light and sound waves to make you cry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's military technology.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. 302. What is it called? Is it like 300?
Is it going to be Rise of an
subtitle?
Empire?
It was something, I don't know. It's Rise of an Empire.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that's the direct-to-video sequel.
There was already a sequel?
I forgot about that. We already had a sequel. A direct-to-video sequel. So are we getting another one?
Wow. Well, the direct-to-video sequel was in 2014.
Yeah. Oh, and it wasn't direct-to-video. It was theatrical. It just said
in theaters, yeah. And it was a hit.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
I didn't even know there was a 300 sequel before.
Are we getting another one?
Well, yeah. Right?
We'd have to, I guess.
Well, what's the other one? I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. 300.
Oh, my God.
Or am I drunk? Is it not a 300 sequel?
Maybe it's not a 300 sequel.
What is the movie come out? That makes it even worse.
I know. Because I know Practical Magic 2. What was the other one I heard about recently?
Holy crap. Did I like Mandela effect that there's a 300 sequel?
We both forgot there was already
Then what was the movie that's coming out? There's a big movie with Denzel in it.
Oh, Gladiator.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah. Gladiator 2, yes.
Well, even more so, why would there be a sequel to Gladiator?
I don't know.
But whatever.
I'm
just embarrassed because I can't fucking think to save my goddamn life.
I still love you.
That's nice, dear.
So we've spent the first 20 minutes not talking about the movie. Are you ready to talk about the immaculate Blood Rage from 1987?
Since I've already set a precedent, I'm only going to talk about the other Blood Rage.
The other Blood Rage. I was wondering if that was going to come up at some point.
Yeah. The Blood Rage I knew of when you asked me if I had seen Blood Rage.
Yes. Joseph Zito.
Joe Zito's classic.
Which
the most anti-ending ending of all time.
I think is one word, too. I think Blood Rage is just one word, and I don't think it's split up, but it might be.
I don't know.
But then again, Blood Rage did have like 6 other titles. So we're talking about Blood Rage from 1987, 1 hour and 22 minutes, rated R or unrated, depending on which cut you get. Director of the film is John Grissmer. He is the writer and producer on The Bride, a.k.a., Last House on Massacre Street.
Yeah, Last House on Massacre Street, which is a great film.
Yeah, great film. And I also want to see his other one from 77 called Scalpel. He's the writer and producer on The Bride and Scalpel. Then he is the director, writer, and producer Scalpel in 77 and Blood Rage in 87. And then that is all the man's resume. Writer on the film is Bruce Rubin, who had writing credit on Zapped, the Scott Baio film in 1982. Then he goes on to write Blood Rage in 87, gets character credit for Zapped again in 1990, and also wrote a couple episodes of Recess, the animated series.
Hey!
The cinematographer on the film is Richard E. Brooks. He gets his start in 1967, Enrique, with a little film called Teenage Mother. You remember that trailer that was always on the 42nd Street compilations?
Of course.
Yeah. Teenage Mother. Believe in Me, 1971, The Concert for Bangladesh in 72, Dark August in 76, which is also a Marianne Cantor-produced film. She had 2 on her resume, which is Dark August and Blood Rage. Natural Enemies in 79, We're Fighting Back in 81, We Will Rock You, Queen live in concert in 83, Morgan Stewart's Coming Home in 1987, same year he does Blood Rage, followed by The Undertaker in 1988 with Joe Spinell.
Which is not even finished.
It's not.
Okay.
The Gifted in 1989. I mean, it's technically finished with terrible inserts. I said terrible. Yep. Oh, man. That poster was at Wasteland again, by the way.
I know.
The Gifted in 1989. Creating Rem Lazar in 1989 as well. No Exit in 1995. Williamstown in 98. And Comeback in 2000. Special effects I want to bring attention to the film is a man by the name of Ed French, and he gets his start on 1981's Nightmare, a.k.a. Nightmares in a Damaged Brain.
Oh, that's a pretty fun one.
Moves on to Amityville 2, The Possession in 1982, where he does effects for that. Sleepaway Camp in 83, Alphabet City, Chud, Exterminator 2, The Stuff, Breeders, Necropolis, Blood Rage in 87, then goes on to do Mutant Hunt, Creepshow 2, Lurkers, Tales from the Dark Side series in 87 as well, Vampire's Kiss, Prime Evil, The House on Tombstone Hill, a.k.a. Dead Dudes in a House in 89.
Boo.
That's coming to the show, don't worry.
Oh, no.
The First Power in 1990, The Guardian in 1990, Terminator 2 at Judgment Day in 91.
What do you do on Terminator 2?
He did special effects.
Thanks for your specificity.
The man's resume is quite large. All right, let me check.
Well, I mean, there were like hundreds of
there's a lot
in
of
that movie.
Yeah. But going back to after Terminator 2, he then does Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, 91, Bullet in 96, Hellraiser Bloodline in 96 as well, Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, Mad TV, Jamie Kennedy Experiment, White Chicks, Supernatural, The Black Dahlia, House, Walk Hard, The Story of Dewey Cox, Midnight Meat Train, Return to Sleepaway Camp in 2008, Paul Blart Mall Cop in 2009, This is 40, The Office, American Sniper, Sinister 2, Viral, House of Cards, Preacher, Perry Mason in 2020, and most recently Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves in 2023.
Wow.
Ed French is
Dungeons
awesome.
and Dragons Honor Among
fun.
Thieves. That was a fun movie.
That was a very fun movie. Moving down to our IMDb synopsis, it says, a boy kills a man and accuses his twin brother of murder, and the innocent brother ends up institutionalized while his psychotic twin goes free. 10 years later, the innocent twin escapes, which triggers the brothers into killing again.
I mean, there's not a lot of meat left on that bone.
There is not. My synopsis says, an evil twin returns to his homicidal ways when the news is received that his brother, whom he framed for murder, has escaped 10 years later.
I mean, they're both pretty solid.
Yay.
I'll give it a tie.
All right, I'll take that up. Taglines include not all the evil is on Elm Street, because Nightmare in Shadow Woods.
There were so many shit like that, so many taglines.
Yep.
Freddy and Jason are too afraid to come.
What is it?
You'll have a hell of a time.
Freddy and Jason were kids once too, which is Milo,
Mikey.
or Milo, or Mikey. Oh yeah, Mikey.
Yeah.
This Thanksgiving, it's not cranberry sauce, which was the Arrow Blu-ray subtitle on it, and then also nightmares do come true.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. Blood Rage is currently streaming on Moment U. It is also available to rent. Moment 2? Okay. And it's also available to rent or buy through Amazon and Vudu right now as well. And like I said earlier, I cannot recommend this Blu-ray enough. It is still in print and available. If you are looking for a great slasher film and are a fan of slasher films, I cannot recommend Blood Rage's release enough. Moving down to our cast, we have Louise Lasser, who plays Maddy in the film. She gets her start on The Laugh Makers in 1962, The Doctors in 65, What's New Pussycat in 65, What's Up Tiger Lily, Take the Money and Run in 69, Bananas in 71, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Too Afraid to Ask in 72, Bob Newhart Show in 72, Mary Tyler Moore Show in 73, Love Story, Mary Hartman, Stardust Memories, Taxi, St. Elsewhere, Crime Wave in 85, Blood Rage in 87, Sing in 1989, Frankenhooker in 1990, The Night We Never Met in 93, Happiness, Mystery Men, Requiem for a Dream, Fast Food, Fast Women, Wolves of Wall Street in 2002, Gold Diggers in 03, CSI in 2009, Girls in 2014, and Funny Pages in 2022.
I mean, she had a hell of a career.
Yeah, she's still going. She's got a couple things that she was saying that she's going to be in this year, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. Mark Soper, who plays Todd and Terry in the film, he gets his start in 1980 with Attica, Kent State in 81, Parole in 82, The World According to Garp in 82, Tempest in 82, TJ Hooker in 82, Blood Rage in 87, The Equalizer in 87, The In Crowd in 88, Graveyard Shift 2, which we saw the poster for in Halloween, or...
no, you mean... Haunted Ween.
Haunted Ween, thank you.
Yeah, Haunted Ween.
Yeah. Knots Landing in 91, Phenomenon in 96, Judging Amy in 2000, Bar Hopping in 2000, Swordfish in 2001, and White Oleander in 2002. We also have Julie Gordon in the film, who plays Karen. She gets her start in 78 with If I Ever See You Again, Superfuzz in 1980, Paper Dolls in 84, Blood Rage in 87, and Deadly Illusion in 87 as well.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah. Small resume, but hey, she's in Blood Rage. I give her props.
For fuck's sake, it's Blood Rage.
It's Blood Rage. So, what was your first time seeing Blood Rage? Was it when I showed it to you? Or
yeah,
I didn't know if you hunted it down or not.
I am pretty certain, because Blood Rage really did get an incredible resurgence.
Yeah.
It was pretty well forgotten.
Absolutely.
By even the most diehard fans, because I guess the VHS tape of Blood Rage was pretty friggin' rare.
Yeah, it's like going for like $200 now.
And its other releases under other titles were also extremely uncommon to find.
Yeah, Nightmare at Shadow Woods got a DVD release. I don't know if it got a VHS or
no,
not.
it was only on DVD,
Yeah.
but also nobody even knew what that was.
No.
You know, it just comes out and they're like, what? So when Arrow really kind of, in my estimation, I think this is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
They really kind of put it back on the map by shooting the new old school looking poster.
Yeah.
With the severed hand holding the beer can and everything on a Thanksgiving table.
Mm-hmm.
They really kind of amped that up. I remember people talking about it and how there were articles published that showed them like taking the photos for the can and talking about how, they were basically putting it all back together.
Yeah.
For the first time, the composite cut and all that stuff. So I had never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never, there still aren't many Thanksgiving horror movies. I mean, we have a few more than we used to.
Yeah.
But there very much aren't many. So when you brought it to me, I'm pretty sure that was the first time I had ever seen it.
I think it was.
Yeah, because I bought a copy after and I couldn't get the collector's edition because they were already gone.
I had to pre-order mine the moment it went up.
And but I remember just thinking like, man, this is everything that is great about a bad slasher movie.
Film. Yeah.
It's highly memorable.
Mm-hmm.
It's got great characters, great scenery. The whole idea that they're just in this apartment complex is honestly kind of weird.
Yeah.
It feels just kind of odd how they're bouncing around people's apartments.
It absolutely does.
And the whole like walking through the woods behind the apartment and the apartment complex being called Shadow Woods. All of that is strange. But what stuck out to me the most was the concept of the twin brothers and one's a killer, but then frames the other and everything just struck me as like so far out of the ordinary. I was like, what? Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So that was probably, what stuck with me the most. That it does a pretty good job of depicting like a very, very average Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of, you eat food with some people and then afterwards you're fucking bored. You know? So like not that the audience is bored, but I mean like, because the characters are like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Like, we could let's play Nintendo or watch the tube, get some beers. You know, it's very like that kind of like, I don't know, I'm off work. I don't fucking know.
What to do.
So I remember liking it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And every year when I revisit it, I'm generally very pleased that it's become a part of that oeuvre.
It's a treat.
But what about you, Jerk?
So you brought Blood Rage into my view, but it wasn't because of this movie specifically. It was another film called Blood Rage that we've mentioned previously.
Yeah, the 1980 film directed by Joseph Zito.
Yes, and you brought that into my view because you always told me about the insane ending. And spoilers for Blood Rage from 82.
It's 80.
Or 80.
Yeah, well, you can't get it. It's not streaming anywhere. It's not on tape. I mean, it is on tape, but it's not, you can't, it's not in print.
No.
It's just nowhere.
Yeah. And pretty simple story. You got a serial killer in New York? Question mark? Yeah.
Joe Zito?
Oh,
New York
Zito.
City.
Yeah, duh, yeah. You got a serial killer in New York and terrorizing women and whatnot. And basically, there's a cop on his tail the entire movie. At the very end, the climax of the film, he's cornered this woman. The cops met him or found him at his hiding place, which is a really rundown apartment. And the woman starts basically tearing him down. And then the cop comes up, grabs our killer, hurls him.
Who he had met throughout the film.
Met him throughout the film, yeah. Hurls him through a window, turns around and goes, credits.
There's no...
Oh, yeah. There's not?
No, he just goes through the window and the cop turns away from the window and it's credits.
Are you sure it's not?
I think you're remembering that too perfectly.
Maybe I am.
Because that would be too funny. No, it's just the movie just stops.
Yeah.
It's just he throws him out the window.
Blood Rage.
And then it's just, that's the movie. That was a random, super out of print find I had when I lived in Jersey that I was watching by myself. And when the ending happened, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I sincerely think they ran out of money.
It's very possible.
So they were like, let's just call it a day.
But yeah, so then after searching out that movie, I came across the other Blood Rage, which was the more popular of the two because everybody remembered the Killer Twin movie that had been lost, basically.
Well, and the line, that's not cranberry sauce.
Yes. So this one fell on my radar simply for its notoriety of its kills, and more importantly, its difficulty to obtain a copy of it. I mean, it was even harder back then. Even at horror cons, you might be lucky to find a VHS rip of it. So when that Blu-ray got announced, I was like, holy shit, I need to see this. Even though I had technically already had a copy, but it was so worn down that I couldn't really see much of it.
Sure.
And it did have the title screen of Blood Rage and not Slasher, which we'll get into. But anyway, so 2015, Arrow announces this Blu-ray. I wasted no time pre-ordering it, and needless to say, it took no time at all to fall in love with it either. It's such a goofy slasher film. The kills are top-notch. The killer is so much fun to watch just kind of unwind. Even though he's already...
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, and just overall, it's got a great score. The performances are fun. So it's really just one of those movies that I'm a sucker for a holiday slasher film, even more so when it's a holiday that doesn't have a lot of slasher films attributed to it. So quickly, this became an annual Thanksgiving watch for me, and usually you're included as well.
Sure. No, I definitely so.
Not to mention that time that Joe Bob ended the Dinners of Death with it, and we...
Yeah, the fourth film, it completely reinvigorated us.
Yeah, because before that was Dead or Alive, I want to say.
Yeah, a little bit of a slog at 3 a.m.
Yeah, just a bit. But yeah, Blood Rage is so much fun. Are you ready to get into it?
Why the hell not?
So we open with a shot of a drive-in. As we see, they are playing The House That Cried Murdered. We see some cars pulling into the drive-in, and we're also told that it's 1974 in Jacksonville, Florida. And we close up on the ticket booth and we see Slasher appear across the screen because that is one of the titles that this movie fell under. One of 6 or 7 at this point.
So glad they went with something original and creative like Slasher.
So the credits begin with the theme playing as we watch a man inside. He gets his popcorn. He goes into the restroom. And that's when he runs into a very young 19-year-old Ted Raimi as a condom salesman.
Young and supple Ted Raimi.
And so he buys the condoms off of Raimi. He goes out to his car. And that's when we also see that various patrons are smoking weed, they're making out, they're watching the movies. One of my favorite is there's a couple in the car and the guy's trying to get it on with the woman and she's just like, no, and keeps elbowing him and then they watch the movie. So that's when we also meet Maddy as she's on a date with the man and her two children, her two twin children, Terry and Todd, are asleep in the back of the car. Maddy and her date are doing some light smooching, even though Maddy is nervous with them in the back, but the date's like, they're fine. They've been asleep for the last half hour. And so that's when Terry and Todd slowly wake up and they quietly leave the back of the car undetected and begin to wander around the drive-in.
Yeah, some sneaking.
So they find themselves over by the back of a truck where Terry finds a hammer with a hatchet on the end of it. And he wanders over to a car where we see the man who was in the concession stand before having sex with his girlfriend. And the kid just kind of watches for a little bit until he notices that Terry's there. And that's when he's like, hey, creep, get lost. And that's when Terry takes no time at all, suddenly swinging the hatchet into the man's face no less than 5 times.
Yeah, he dices him up real good.
Blood starts going everywhere. His date
Rage
starts
going everywhere.
Rage starts going everywhere. His date screams, runs out of the car nude towards the drive-in screen, and Terry is just smiling as he's just hacking away on this body still. So then we cut back to Maddy, who's still concerned about her boys, and her date gets pissed, and he's like, all right, well, we'll just go home. So he starts the car, and that's when they realize that the kids are not in the car. We cut to Terry, who has now put the murder weapon in Todd's hand and is also smearing the blood on his hands, or on his arms and his face. Yep. And that's when he calls to his mom, and he's like, Mom, look what Todd did. And Maddy comes over, and she's like, she's like, Terry, are you okay? And looks at Todd, and I love this delivery from Louise Lasser. She's like, Todd, what's wrong with you?
Well, what would you say, Dave? Great job, champ.
But also, Todd has now gone mute. He's still and just staring forward. And that's when we cut to a car that's driving down a road. Text pops up, and we see that it says 10 years later. We see that Maddy is pulling up to an institution where Todd has been. She shows her the ID, and she also wishes him a happy Thanksgiving, as we find out today is Thanksgiving Day.
What?
So we find out via voiceover that Dr. Berman has been looking over Todd for the last 10 years, and he started now to recall the events of that night, telling her that Todd is stating that Terry is actually the one who killed the man, and he is innocent.
I love this sequence because it's literally a dialogue scene that they just decided was too stupid or boring or something, because they're literally talking, and then all of a sudden their voices get low, and we just hear the doctor voicing over and she's literally just play-by-playing what's happening. She's like, he became upset and did
I'm
this.
upset.
And he's like, basically, it's damn near that.
His mother didn't believe me. I don't believe you.
It was not far off from
really
that
not.
Exactly. So yeah,
he starts freaking out, and we have Dr. Berman, as Hen said, is given the voiceover. Dr. Berman is played by Marion Cancer, who is the producer of the film. I'll go into the reason that she's in the film a little later into the facts, but she decides that she wants to bring Todd in because from what I understand, I guess that she only sees him once a year. From what it sounds
mother?
like, yeah,
it sounds that way.
So the Todd is brought in by the staff, and that's when she gives him a piece of pie that's wrapped up in a little box, and she starts trying to basically, explain that she wants to bring Todd home with Terry so they can be a happy family again. And of course, Todd doesn't trust Terry because he framed her for murder. So he takes the pie, starts crumbling it, throws it against the wall, and is like, get me out of here. I want to be free. I didn't kill anybody. Security comes in and takes care of him. And that's when we cut to basically the doctor saying that she is going to look into Terry a little bit closer.
I mean, it only took a decade.
A decade. So security rushes in and subdues him. We find out that Terry is suspected by Dr. Berman as we cut to Shadow Woods Complex, where Maddy and Terry live. We see Terry playing football with his friends, Greg, Arty, and his girlfriend, Karen. We also meet a new girl, Andrea, and her mother, Beth, who have just moved in, and they also tell them that Maddy invited them over for Thanksgiving dinner later. So the group decides then to go for a swim, and that is where I will interject here that we watched the composite cut of this film, which includes this scene only as the addition to the composite cut, which is they basically go swimming at the complex pool. We also meet Julie, who's a resident there, who basically asks Andrea to watch her daughter for a night while she goes on a date, and then that's basically the scene. There's not a lot that's really added to it.
No, not a whole hell of a lot.
So we are now inside Maddy's apartment as she's hosting Thanksgiving with her boyfriend, Brad. Terry's there, Andrea's there, Beth and Karen are there, and Maddy announces that her and Brad are engaged, and we immediately see that Terry is not taking this news well, but he fakes it.
He's, a little passive aggressive about it. He threatens him with a knife a little bit, but then says, "So since you're the man of the house,
it's time for you to do
it's
the
time
work.
for you to carry your own weight," suggesting he carved the bird.
Yeah, so he's congratulating them and toasting them to the new family. Maddy states that it's time to carve the turkey, so he hands over the knife to Brad, as Henrique just said, and that's when we get a phone call that beckons Maddy to the kitchen. Terry begins hitting it off with Andrea a little bit because they both play tennis, and Karen, his girlfriend, doesn't seem super amused by this. Terry is then called to the kitchen by Maddy, who informs him the call was from the institution and that they believe Todd has escaped and is on his way to the complex.
Oh no, an escaped lunatic.
An escaped lunatic
on
indeed.
Thanksgiving
on
of
Thanksgiving
all days.
of all days, I know. So Todd has escaped, adding they're out looking for him, and Dr. Berman is on her way over to make sure that if he shows up there, they can apprehend him. Maddy asks for Terry to pretend that nothing has happened and to tell their guests absolutely nothing as well. And Terry obeys her, except he absolutely doesn't when he sits down to the table and he tells Brad, looks like you're going to get to meet the whole family. My psycho brother just escaped from the institution.
Yeah, he says that with such glee.
Yeah.
To just scare the shit out of this guy.
And of course, Maddy's just shocked at the outburst, and she just stares at her plate in silence and looks over at Terry just like eating like a single green bean.
Yeah. Well, it's a little awkward, I guess.
So we see Todd now wandering the streets outside of a grocery store, making his way closer to the complex. Excuse me. And sometime later, dinner is over. Everyone's gone home except Terry, Brad, and Maddy, who are in the kitchen doing the dishes. Brad tells Maddy that that she should go take it easy, that it's been a busy day for her. And that's when we see her in her room just staring at her wall covered in pictures, like baby pictures of Terry and Todd. And Brad comes in and joins her, and he basically tells her, not to worry, that, we're gonna figure this out. He plants a kiss on her, and that's when also Terry peeks in, and we see him kind of get upset again. Maddy begins to break down a little bit, and Brad reassures her he's not going anywhere, and they will handle this.
Yeah, they'll handle it.
So she tells him that she's glad he's here. The doorbell rings. Terry goes to the door where a man grabs him, pulling a gun on him, and that's when Dr. Berman steps up and says, "Oh, that's his twin. That's not him." And that's when we realize that Berman is also with her assistant Jackie, who has a tranquilizer gun, because Louise Lasser comes to the door and she's like, "What's that gun?"
Yeah, what's that gun? I mean, every line, she puts so much into pretty much every line of dialogue in the film.
Yeah, so Brad offers to show them around the property, explaining they have 10 acres and he might be hiding on one of the back patios or even the nature walk around the property. He also advises them that he's in room 137. If they need any help, that's where he'll be. So Berman tells Jackie to give her the tranquilizer gun, and she's going to go look on the nature trail, and he can check the back patios. Jackie's like, "Are you sure you want me to go with me?" And she's like, "No, I got this." So Jackie and her go off looking in their separate ways, and that's when Brad goes to his apartment. He grabs a beer, also retrieves a pistol, and he makes a call over to Maddy to let her know they're looking the property. He'll keep her updated. While this is happening, though, Terry appears behind him with a machete.
Yes. I like how, by the way, how Terry and Todd are going to be delineated.
Yeah.
Todd has flat hair.
Flat hair.
And Terry is
airbrushed.
Coiffed. Coiffed would be, I think, the term.
Yeah. So Todd, so damn it. So that's the first one I did.
How could that be confusing?
I don't
David?
know. So Terry knocks on Brad's door, and Brad's like, "Oh, well, look who it is," and turns his chair around as Terry just chops his fucking left hand off holding a beer.
Yeah. What was the beer he was holding? Was it Milwaukee's Best?
It might be. I can't. I feel like it's Spanky something or Saint Anky or something.
Because
I feel like Joe
I thought
Bob
for
said
sure
it.
you would know.
I mean, it's probably on the cover.
You've let me down. No, they would use a different can for the cover.
That's fair. So the hand just drops to the floor. He's squirting blood out of his stump and screaming, and Terry is very, very happy with his work. So we cut away from that, and that's when basically we cut over to Jackie's walking the grounds, Berman's walking the woods in the nature preserve, and Jackie's getting frustrated.
It's old style.
Old style. That's right. Yeah. Why do I think St. Hankey's?
I don't know.
Joe Bob had that beer once. I can't remember what movie.
You're talking
it was.
about Lone Star?
No, I drink Lone Star.
Where do you get Lone Star?
Kroger, Troy.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So that's when Jackie's wandering the property. He's calling to Todd. Berman's calling to Todd, and Jackie gets frustrated. And he's like, "Hey, Todd, if you want to come out, I got some goodies. We can get high." So then Jackie just pops off on the back patio, starts lighting a joint, and Terry walks up holding the machete behind his back so he can't see it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want to give that away.
Yeah, so Jackie apologizes to him for the gun earlier, and that's when he offers Terry the joint, and Terry takes a puff on it, thanks him, and that's when he's like, "Hey, Dr. Berman told me that Todd actually said he's innocent and that he didn't kill anybody." Terry wastes no time at all shouting, "Yes, he did," brings the machete from his back and just shoves it straight through Jackie.
And it's actually, I mean, the gore effects in this are surprisingly effective.
Yeah.
The blade goes through him and you like see it come out the other side as blood sprays out. It's very, very effective.
Have you seen that meme that was going around a couple years
where
ago?
It looks like an anti-drug PSA.
Yes.
Terry never did drugs, not even once. And now, it's very funny.
It's so good. So he kills Jackie instantly, and that's when we cut to Berman, still wandering the nature path, calling to Todd, but there's still no sign of him. Maddy is back in the apartment, now sitting in front of the fridge, which is wide open, sitting on the floor, just eating leftovers, shoving green beans down her throat.
Yeah, the way she eats the green beans is particularly bizarre. She's like shoveling corn in her mouth, and when she takes the green beans, she like places them in the back of her mouth with her hands, not in the front, like just reaches past the tip of her tongue down back there and like places them.
Yeah.
Very, very specific.
So we cut back to Berman in one of my favorite shots where Berman wanders into the middle of the screen, and all of a sudden we see somebody approach from the bottom right, and then a bloody machete drops into frame as she is basically framed up right with the machete. Of course, Terry ambushes her, chops her in half as she is screaming, and her legs are kicking of the corpse, even though she is completely cut in half now.
Yeah, but what a shocking reveal.
Oh, it absolutely is. So that's when we also cut back to Maddy, who is now sitting in front of the phone, pouring a giant glass of wine, trying to call to Brad. And that is when we also see that Todd has officially arrived at Shadow Woods.
Oh, yeah.
And there might be a nightmare in progress.
I doubt it.
So Terry, back inside the apartment, is in the bathroom, covered in blood, takes a finger and rubs it on his shirt, commenting, "That's not cranberry sauce."
Whoa.
1 of 5. So he says that, steps into the shower, rinses off, puts on a pair of fresh clothes, and that's when Maddy, still trying to reach Brad, remains in the kitchen, cleaning the oven and even having more wine. We cut back to Brad's apartment where we see he's clearly just been murdered, and Terry has propped him up at the desk to make it look like he's kind of just sitting there. So you can't, if anybody's looking in.
He's propped up in a bizarre way.
Yeah. He's like this.
He looks like he's fallen asleep with his head in his hands.
Yeah.
Although one hand is missing.
One hand's missing and blood's just all over the apartment, but you can't see it if you're facing out the back of the door.
No, apparently not.
So that's when we cut over to as Terry goes to visit Andrea, who is babysitting for Julie, and she offers him tomato juice and vodka, but Terry says he'll just take the tomato juice, telling her he doesn't drink.
Yeah, I do like that. Huh? I don't drink. The way he says it, I don't drink.
Yeah. Andrea tries to make a move on him, but Terry picks up the TV remote, asking, "I wonder what's on?" Completely shutting her down.
Yeah, there's something going on with sex.
Yeah, the director actually commented on that in the commentary, that basically anytime there was any sense of an initiation of being turned on or anything sexual that would trigger, he goes basically berserk.
Well, he didn't go berserk when she was touching him and stuff.
No.
He just rejected her.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually he does experience a rage of blood.
Take it up when John Grissmer when you get your tires next.
You know what? I'm going to look him up right now.
So that is when we also see that Todd is hiding on the back patio. Karen goes around the back because she's knocking on Terry's door. There's no answer, and she is spooked by Todd, thinking it is Terry. She tries to speak to him, but Todd remains silent, and she believes that he's high, even commenting, "You always get so quiet when you're high."
Aww.
She questions why they haven't spoken much since they got back from college, and even states that she wants him to make love to her.
Oh, it's like a fairy tale.
And Todd speaks up, confessing that he's Todd. Karen tries to play it cool before running off, and that's when she finds Arty and Greg in the parking lot, telling them that Todd is here. Arty grabs a bat, going to look for Todd, and Greg tries to put the moves on Karen, but Arty returns and says that they gotta find Terry. Back in Julie's apartment, Terry is put off by the violent movie on TV, which is the Last House on Massacre Street.
Yeah, The Bride.
Yeah, The Bride. And that's when we also see that Andrea turns off the TV, trying to make another move on him, but Julie returns with her date, Bill, who is played by Ed French, the makeup artist of Blood Rage.
Yes, Ed French playing somebody like twice his own age, basically. Yeah. It's so funny to look at him because he's like clearly been styled to look like a middle-aged dork.
Yeah.
When in reality, he's probably like 26.
So he's stating they probably shouldn't drive anywhere since they've been drinking, and Julie tells him don't worry about them. Even says, well, you could get in trouble for, giving alcohol to minors. And that's when Terry's like, "We're not minors, sir. Good night."
Good night. Ba-da-ba-ba.
So Terry and Andrea leave. The group sees them and informs him that Todd is at the complex. Terry states he's got to go look for him as Arty makes a crack, which basically is like a psycho brother crack, and that pisses Terry off, who confronts him, telling him it's not funny. Terry goes off on his own, and Karen's like, should I follow him? And Andrea's like, hey guys, if we want to party, let's go back to my place. My mom's gone. I got plenty of stuff. What do you say? So the group heads over to Andrea's apartment now.
Yeah, they're going to party like it's 19 something or other.
So Terry goes back to the apartment telling Maddy that Todd has arrived, and Maddy asks if the doctor is close. Terry lies and tells her that he can't find her, suspecting that she left.
Oh, well, doctors are like that.
I mean, she did leave the, eternal plane of Earth.
I mean,
in a sense.
It's one way to look at it.
Yeah, So Maddy goes to call Brad again, but keeps getting the ringing, and she tells Terry to find Brad. He'll know what to do, and she'll stay here in case Todd comes home. So she tells him to be careful, as Todd is probably very frightened, and also says, oh, and Terry, put a sweater on. It's cold outside.
Well, she never stops being a mom, David.
She does not. Meanwhile, Todd finds a severed body of Dr. Berman, and yes, he tries to put her back together.
Well, he cares, David.
And he asks her, why didn't she do something? He also retrieves a pistol from her body, which made me question, I guess no, she probably needed the tranquilizer because she didn't want to shoot him.
Wait, what?
She's got a pistol.
Right.
She's the second pistol that they retrieved, but she also asked for the tranquilizer gun. So Jackie literally has nothing, and she's got 2 guns.
Well, I mean, he's dead.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a corpse.
Yeah.
They're both corpses. I guess it doesn't matter now.
It all worked out.
So he asks her why she didn't do something, retrieves the pistol from her body, and then he hears a little girl calling to an animal. He finds her, and she tells him that she's lost her cat, and that's when Todd is like, well, cats actually have a way of finding their own way home, and you should probably go home because there's a bad person out there tonight. So when you get home, don't let anyone in that you don't know, even if they ask, even if they ask for help. So at Andrea's apartment, Greg and Arty play video games while Andrea teaches Karen how to do a proper tequila shot. She also tells Andrea about her run-in with Todd and how he was creepy and hopes that they catch him. Andrea gets Greg to join her on the sofa as Karen goes to play Arty in the video game. Back in Julie's apartment, though, Bill discovers that Julie has brought out some body liqueurs.
Uh-oh.
Offering him an appetizer before going off to slip into something more comfortable.
Well, she's trying to nab herself a rich one.
Yes, because the doorbell rings and Bill checks the door stating it's that kid again, and she tells him, well, go ahead and see what he wants. So Bill opens the door. We see Terry looking really, evil again, and he goes, hi.
Yeah, and then the music goes,
yeah,
it's actually it's a really great reveal.
It's so good. So the record skips, and her baby starts crying. So Julie goes to her baby and, tells her to, it's okay. Mama's going to try to grab you a rich daddy tonight. So that's when Julie goes out and she finds that Bill is gone. She sees no sign of him. She goes to the door and looks to the people and asks, what are you doing out there? Opens the door as we are shown Bill's severed head now hanging by an extension cord on the stairs.
An incredible reveal, and it makes so much sense now knowing that he was the effects artist, because of course he'd have a perfect approximation of his own severed head.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be very easy to pull off.
So Julie races back inside trying to grab a coat, telling her baby that she's coming, and that's when Terry just steps out of the side of the room and helps her put her coat on.
Well, he's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman, and Julie stares back in fear at him. Out back of Maddy's, Todd uses a screwdriver to break into the apartment. Wandering the halls, he goes to their old bedroom, picking up a baseball mitt and sitting on the bed before a drunken Maddy calls to Terry before passing out in the hallway. And that's when Todd checks on her, going back into the hallway. Back at Andrea's, we see Terry spying on the group of them via POV shot as Karen and Arty are still playing video games, while Greg and Andrea make out in her bedroom. Todd puts his mother to bed, and she comes to asking what happened as Todd tells her, oh, I think too much wine. And she thinks it's Terry. She asks him if they found Todd, and he informs her not yet. And she states maybe he didn't come home after all. Maybe he just ran away. Todd even says maybe and goes to leave, and that's when Maddy holds up her arms and says, come give your mama a kiss.
It's really sad watching her fall apart because she's such a great actress.
Yeah.
She really is, and her performance is so convincing.
So good. So Arty and Karen notice that Andrea and Greg are missing and ask where'd they go. Suddenly, Andrea's scream echoes from the back of the apartment, so the two go back to the bedroom, which now is completely dark with the lights off, as Andrea, now decked out in makeup, jumps up, scaring them, and Greg pops out of the closet with a fake hatchet. Karen states it's not funny and that she thought that Todd had got them, and so she leaves. Arty asks if they want to go to a party, but Greg tells him that they're going to go play tennis. So back in Maddy's apartment, she pours another glass of wine and goes to take a shower.
I mean, what else would you do, right?
So Andrea, back in Andrea's apartment, we see her taking a shower as well, as Terry has snuck into the apartment and he's watching her from the side. She calls to Greg that she'll be out in a minute, and Terry silently leaves. Maddy, fresh out of the shower, calls an operator who tells her that Brad's number is not in working order, causing Maddy to start freaking out, saying that she knows the number's in service. She wants to talk to her boyfriend. She begs the operator, telling him it's a real emergency.
Yeah, we have several sequences of the mother just basically arguing with the operator.
Yeah.
Saying like, well, if he's not answering his phone, I must not be connected.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
It's very sad.
Thank goodness her character has an upbeat ending.
A happy ending,
overall,
yes. So on the tennis court, Andrea and Greg hit the ball back a few times as Terry watches it in the shadows. Greg sends the ball over the fence as Andrea goes after it, and Terry walks off. Greg lays on the court waiting for Andrea, even calling to her, but there's no response when suddenly the ball rolls to Greg, but there's still no sign of Andrea. Andrea then sneaks up, surprising him, telling him she couldn't find the ball, and that's when Greg pulls her in, but Andrea says, "Not here. She's got a much better idea."
Ooh.
So back in the apartment, Maddy convinces the operator to help her, connecting her to the helpline. Maddy begins to tell them about Todd running away from the institution and how she brought him a piece of pie earlier today. Goes into a little bit of a tangent about, being back with him and whatnot. And that's when we can hear the operator say something.
Tangent.
Not tangent.
Well, no. It is a tangent.
Yeah.
But a tangent usually suggests that there's like a real conversation. She more just kind of disassociates and just starts rambling incoherently. So it is technically a tangent. I just feel like that's a little too soft of a description.
That's fair. Because then she freaks out once again because the operator is like, "What number am I trying to reach?" And that's when she's like, "Get me my boyfriend. Please get me my boyfriend." And she just breaks down completely at this point.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I'm sure that the operator knows who her boyfriend is.
So in the pool area, we see that Greg and Andrea lay nude on the diving board, making out, as Todd walks up, telling them to stop that, slashing Greg's throat, sending him into the pool, which becomes bloody immediately. And then he also slashes Andrea's face in close-up, causing her to scream. He tells Greg that he's been a bad boy.
I mean, he has.
David. And also, can we talk about that effect, though, when he slices her cheek? Like, the way that the machete goes and the fishing line that they pull away.
No, it's very, very good. No,
So
the effects
good.
are super, are bizarrely solid in this film. I think it's one of the things that helped it so much when they brought it back out of obscurity was people were surprised how great the effects were. Because usually these kinds of movies, the effects are kind of bottom of the barrel, which in a way makes them fun.
Well,
but this one, instead, you're just like, damn, every time there's an effect.
And unfortunately, with the many different versions, a lot of the effects got cut over time, too.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. So Maddy holds the phone, begging to please don't do this to me and leave me alone. Meanwhile, on the nature trail, Karen and Arty walk the path as Arty talks about his past relationship, asking Karen what's the deal with her and Terry, and she tells him that she feels like he's not even around half the time and they aren't spending much time together at all. She even asks Arty if he'll speak to him when suddenly someone grabs Karen's feet as they both take off running. Terry pops up, letting them know it's just him. Arty sends him to the ground and Terry calls a truce, and that's when he apologizes for earlier and thanks Arty for looking after Karen, and that's when Arty says, "You're a real sweetheart, Simmons. A real sweetheart." So Terry tells Arty to go tell Greg and Andrea they need to get inside with Todd still on the loose. Arty goes to his car where Todd then surprises him out of the back seat with Dr. Berman's pistol, and Todd tries to tell Arty that Terry is crazy one and that he's innocent. And while we have this pistol moment, I would like to bring up there are 2 guns in this movie, not including the tranquilizer gun.
Yeah.
One looks like a very real prop pistol. The other does not.
No, and they trade places
a lot
in the same scene.
Yeah. So that is when we see that they're going along with Todd as we walk to the apartment where he sees Karen and Terry making out on the sofa. The doorbell rings as Terry answers the door, and Arty tells him, Terry, your brother's here. And that's when Todd goes to take an aim at him, but runs off. So the two chase after Todd back to the nature trail where Arty discovers Terry's murder tool pile.
I mean,
yeah,
you call a spade on that one.
Hey, but there's a barbecue fork, there's a saw, there's the machete, there's all kinds of fun tools. And that's when Arty picks up the serving fork as Terry takes it away from him, telling him to be careful. Arty picks up the bloody machete, and that's when Terry tells him, "That's not cranberry sauce, Arty. That is not cranberry sauce." And I would like to stop here, because if you have never seen Blood Rage before, or you have seen it before, if you look in the back of this scene, right before Arty is about to meet his demise, you can see a crew member clearly visible that did not know they were in the shot.
Oh, they did you see them notice it and run off.
Back.
Yeah.
So naturally, Terry then pierces Arty's jugular with the serving fork, and blood comes out everywhere. Karen wanders back to the complex, calling to Arty and Terry with no sign of them. That's when Terry walks back from the nature trail, commenting again, "That's not cranberry sauce, Arty. That is not cranberry sauce, making 5 times that is said in this movie.
5 goddamn times.
5 goddamn times. And that's when Karen finds him covered in blood, carrying the machete, and we have the best delivery from Terry here because she's like, what's that? He's like, it's Todd. He's gone crazy, killing everybody.
Yeah, the way he says it, it's Todd. He's gone crazy. He's killing people all over. He says it like he's telling her like there's a lot of pigeons shitting in the complex.
So she says that they need to call the police, and that's when he's like, that's a great idea. We should call the police. And he starts walking off, but that's when he turns around and he goes, you know what, Karen? I love you. Taking a swing at her with the machete, revealing that he is finally the killer. To her.
So, I was gonna say, but did he make sure she understood whether or not it was cranberry sauce? Because that's what really matters.
That is what really matters. So Karen, realizing that he's the killer, runs to Andrea's apartment, but of course there's no answer. With Terry on her trail, Karen hides in the patio closet, only to discover Jackie's body. Terry, realizing that she's hiding in the closet, sneaks off with a grin. Maddy getting an answer on the other end of her phone, and she thanks the caller, thinking that it's Brad, before the caller's like, wait, what number are you calling? Are you And that's when, again, she does not get a hold of her boyfriend because, again, he's dead. So she freaks out one more time. Karen comes out of the closet, and that's when we see that Terry is playing with Arty's dead body as he makes her hand, I think it hits her butt or hits her side.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And that's when she's like, why are you doing this? And Terry, frustrated as she runs off, goes, you're no fun. You're no fun at all.
I mean, he's right.
So that's when Karen makes a book for it, and she goes to another apartment, ringing the bell, as we see the little girl from before looking for her kitty. And that's when Karen is like, please help me. There's a man after me. And she's like, the man told me not to let anybody in. You're going to hurt my kitty. So then Karen runs off again. Calls to anyone who will answer, making her way back to Julie's apartment. She enters, and that's when we hear the crying baby. No sign of Julie. Karen makes her way back to the room where the baby is, and she goes into the next room, and that's where she finds Julie's corpse as Terry is standing over her, pulling the machete out of her body.
I mean, he can explain. It's not what it looks like.
It's not what it looks like. So that's when he greets Karen as she runs again. Coming to the door as Todd arrives, she quickly locks the back door, goes back to the bedroom, hiding behind the dresser, trying to make a call on the phone. The line rings as we see the bloody machete walk into frame. Terry walks up, laughs again, and that's when Karen wastes no time bashing him right in the dick with the phone.
Yeah, she don't give a damn. She fight back.
So she runs in the apartment with Terry behind her, stating, Karen, that hurt! And Terry returns to chasing her through the complex. Back in the apartment, Maddy discovers Terry's bloody shirt in the trash. Maddy races over to Brad's apartment, banging on the door, and she's like, why haven't you been answering me? What's wrong? We can see that he's still dead, clearly. There's blood all over the walls, but she's not seeing any of this.
Yeah.
She walks up to him, not realizing that he's dead, until she hits his chair, releasing his hands, and his fucking head splits open.
Now, the gore in this really is something else.
Top notch. That brain looks really gross. So that's when she realizes that Brad is dead. By this point, Karen is now hiding in the pool, and that's when she's sitting on the side of the pool holding the baby. But then Terry playfully sneaks up and just starts jumping on the diving board right behind her.
Hey, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
You love that quote.
I do.
So she gets up and runs to the bathroom, hiding the baby under the sink. She finds the dead bodies of Andrea and Greg, which have been hidden in the sauna. She runs to a toilet stall and stands on the toilet so that her feet can't be seen. Terry calls to her, asking if they can talk. Even going up to the sauna door and knocking on it, saying, you guys still in there? He opens the door, apologizing, saying, oh, I didn't know you were in there. Oh, you guys will do it anywhere. Have you seen Karen? He's going crazy at this point.
Oh, well, he's being playful, too.
Yeah.
He's scaring her.
Yeah.
He's acting like they're still alive.
So that's when he goes over to use the urinal, and that's when he exits the bathroom, so we think. Back in the apartment, Maddy finds Brad's gun, telling him that she's going to make everything all right before laying her head on his arm.
No.
So that is when back in the pool, Karen exits the stall as the baby begins to cry. Terry pops out of the side of one of the showers, taking another swing at her. She runs out to come face to face with Todd, pointing the pistol once again at Terry, who tells her to get out of the way. Terry asks Todd, is he going to kill him this time? And Karen takes the gun, trying to fire at him, but the pistol clicks. That's when he knocks Karen aside and begins to rub the blood on Todd, saying he's been a bad boy again, and Todd's not having it. He grabs Terry. The two of them fall into the pool as Terry swims to one side. Karen pulls Todd out on the other, and that's when Maddy arrives at the swimming pool.
Oh, boy.
So Terry, with the machete, seeing Maddy, he drops the machete quickly. Maddy wastes no time at all, blasting him once in the gut, once in the eye, once in the gut again, and then he falls into the pool as a bloody mess.
Yeah, she is not fucking around.
So we see that Terry has now been shot dead. Maddy joins Todd, hugging him, telling him that she's sorry. She loves him so much, she's never going to hurt him again. No one's going to hurt them again. It's just them. No one's going to separate them. She doesn't want to live her life without them. Goes into this whole just speech to him. And that's when she ends it with, "It's just us, Terry." Revealing that she still thinks it's Terry and not Todd. Todd, hearing this, drops his head, telling her he's Todd. He begins to repeat it as he goes to the side of the pool and slams on the glass, and that's when Maddy is just hysterical, saying, no, it can't be. Gets up, leaving Maddy as she tries to latch onto him, screaming no. He keeps repeating, "I'm Todd." Maddy starts repeating, "I'm Todd." And that's when we see that Maddy takes the pistol, slowly taking it up to her head. The gun goes off, blood spills, and the gun flies for some reason.
It just looks cool. It doesn't make any sense, but we see just a shot of near the pool and blood splatters, and then the gun kind of goes across the frame.
Karen, having witnessed this, has horror on her face. She runs out still holding the baby, leaving Todd to witness the aftermath as the police sirens begin to close in on Shadow Woods. And that, my friends, is 1987's Blood Rage slasher, Nightmare at Shadow Woods, The Complex. God damn, what's the other one?
Keep it going.
There's one more. Fuck.
Come on. Come on.
Oh, God, I can't think of the other one. I've got it written down somewhere. Hey. How rude.
I'm just glad the 80s, are always good for a feel-good ending.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that always took me by surprise with this film was how dark the ending is. Goddamn.
So would you like to know some interesting facts about the film?
Maybe.
So it was shot mostly in Jacksonville, Florida. The opening was shot at the Midway Drive-In in south side of Jacksonville.
But here's the weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also credits a drive-in theater in New Jersey.
That is the concession lobby. The concession lobby in the bathroom because Ted Raimi says that on his interview.
It's so weird. Why did they shoot that part in Jersey?
I don't know. Yeah, they shot it in Long Island. And Michael Miller, who's the editor
Well, they
on
didn't
the film,
shoot it in Long Island.
Or not Long Raimi said it was on the edge of Long Island.
Oh, it could be, yeah. It just says Jersey.
But Michael Miller, who is the editor on the film, actually shot that opening with the going through the concession line and whatnot.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So the shot at the Midway Drive-In south side of Jacksonville. It closed in 1996 and is now a Walmart shopping center. The psychiatrist's office is now a rehab center on the outer skirts of Jacksonville. It is the office in Jacksonville, or the office interior was also in Jacksonville and is now a Wells Fargo.
Of course.
The Pick and Save, where we see Todd standing out front of the grocery store, still stands today now as a Save-A-Lot and a furniture store.
See, that's good. We can appreciate that at least.
Shadow Woods was played by two different complexes. The majority is shot at Cedar Cove Apartments, which is now the preserve at Cedar River. The tennis court's still standing and looks the exact same. The University of North Florida was where the nature trail existed, and it was built in 1970, still able to walk it to this day. The pool was at the La Ramada in Jacksonville, which is still the same, and the diving board has since been removed, but there are still bloodstains on the concrete.
Goddamn right there are.
The film was shot in 1983, however, it did not see a release in theaters until 1987. While shot under the title The Complex, the film also saw theatrical releases under the title Slasher and A Nightmare in Shadow Woods. There was a Prism video release under the title of Blood Rage, and even an edited TV cut on the DVD under Nightmare in Shadow Woods.
Yeah, it's very strange, the whole so many versions, and also why Blood Rage ended up winning out when it wasn't even the original title. It's probably the best title though.
Just wait till I get to the story at the end about how they had to track it down to do the remaster and everything.
I'm down.
So Mark Soper got his start in New York theater scene. He was attracted to the film simply for the opportunity to play two characters. Soper stated the idea of a good twin versus an evil twin felt like the ultimate challenge. He went on to do research via watching slasher films in New York. He even started making a list of motivations and actions that he could portray on screen to distinguish between Terry and Todd. And he's on record as stating that Blood Rage was a freeing and enjoyable experience, one of the best shoots of his life.
Well, good on him.
Yeah.
I'm glad he had a good time.
The infamous cranberry sauce line was in fact in the script. And
5 fucking times.
Maybe, and Soper didn't really find it great writing. He reports it is now the most repeated line by fans to him of any film of his career.
Well, that and I'm Todd.
I'm Todd.
I'm Todd. I'm Todd.
So Mark Soper also recalls one day on set where a maid had gone into Ed French's makeup studio and ran out in a panic thinking that the props were real dead bodies. Marianne Cantor, the producer, had to intervene before the maid called the police, explaining that they were just props of the film. French made sure to keep his room locked for the remainder of production.
I mean, that shit happens.
Yeah. John Grissmer, the director, and Bruce Rubin, the cinematographer, studied double photography, citing films of Bette Davis as being an influence on how the film was shot, optically splitting the screen once in a while to show Terry and Todd in the same shot.
Yeah, they didn't do that a whole lot,
No.
which is fine.
No, because they have hair pieces.
Oh my gosh, the body doubles. One of the hair pieces was fine and one was not matching at all.
Blood Rage is the film debut of Ted Raimi, who was 19 at the time. His film appearance saved him from moving back home, as his father had given him an ultimatum to find a role in a year or he was to move back home and get into the family business. Raimi had rear-ended a cop and was without a car in Detroit, so he decided to move to New York and didn't land a role within the year. Raimi had sent the letter to his father telling him he was planning to move back home when only 3 days later he landed the role in Blood Rage as the condom salesman.
That's showbiz, baby.
The drive-in interiors were shot at the now-defunct theater in Long Island by editor Michael Miller, who directed John Grissmer, who was directed by by editor Michael Miller, who director John Grissmer notes was a friend of Raimi. So that's probably how Raimi ended up in it.
Oh, I mean, that would make sense.
Louise Lasser was brought into the production by Marianne Cantor. While Lasser doesn't recall what made her say yes to the production, she believes that she just wanted the work. She adds the concept of Mark Soper playing the two different characters would often confuse her during the shoots, as she wasn't sure which son was the good son or the evil son in the scene.
Well, that's accurate to the character.
Lasser, also unfamiliar with the horror genre in general, had a difficult time with the scene of discovering her dead fiancé. She had her acting coach slap her before the scene to bring an extra emotion into the discovery of his split head.
I mean, that'll do it.
Yeah. She would also had only seen the film one time, and for the first time ever in 2014 in preparation for the Arrow release, commented that she's happy with her performance, adding she wanted to play Maddy as a character stressed to the max and reaching out of left field and reacting out of left field, citing the scenes of her sitting in front of the fridge. She wanted her reactions to be almost like a kid who's unsure when they're supposed to be what they're supposed to be doing in a serious situation.
I got that from that scene.
Yeah.
From specifically the scene where she's sitting in front of the refrigerator.
Yeah. Producer Marianne Cantor was not meant to play the role of Dr. Berman. However, when the New York actress meant to play failed to show, she stepped in, and she had New York theater training and was an actor.
There you go. Got to do what you got to do.
Cantor was quoted as saying she had more guts than sense with producing Blood Rage herself, but prided herself on the deal she made with the producers, which promised them in full return of their money before she would ever take a cent. She adds that making films back then was a whole different story compared to today, as they would be flying the dailies back to New York from Florida to view each day to make sure production was still running smooth. Florida was the prime location for the production, as it was a non-union state with big investors, and all locations fit perfectly for the story.
I mean, there were a lot of films being made in Florida back then, a lot of B movies.
While thrilled with the re-release, Marianne Cantor stated this production was a nightmare for her personally, as there were multiple incidents between Louise Lasser and John Grissmer. Grissmer at one point left the production, giving his salary back to Cantor, who decided to take a chance with the DP Bruce Rubin as a director, but several days later proved that his directing gig was too much for Rubin. Cantor then called Grissmer, begging him to return to the production, which he eventually ended up doing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you know why he walked off?
Because Louise Lasser and him were fighting a lot.
Do you know what they were fighting about? Did you mention in the commentary?
No, actually, that's one thing. So on the commentary, he's like, oh yeah, we were the best of friends. Marianne Cantor's interview says completely otherwise. So it's a little bit of a contradiction, but from what Cantor says in the interview was that she was just so method with her acting coach and everything that she would need certain types of takes and whatnot, and just was not understanding of the production and the flow they had to have.
It sounds to me like she wanted more than he could give.
Yeah. Cantor had found Ed French through a student film he'd worked on. The two had a meeting at French's apartment where they immediately hit it off, and Cantor gave French the script, offering him the job. French, being a fan of Fangoria and practicing it as an effects artist, was thrilled with the carnage present in the script. He immediately began to prep at his New York lab and then moved the lab to Jacksonville for the production, as the cast and crew all stayed in the Cedar Cove apartments.
I mean, if you're filming at an apartment,
yeah,
there's places to stay.
The scene where a woman is slashed in the face with a machete in close-up was done via fishing line, ripping the skin away to expose the effect. French was inspired by the scene in The Exorcist where writing appears on a character's face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The official Arrow release was due to Marianne Cantor coming to John Stanley, who is her partner, after John Grissmer came to her about a DVD release. Marianne had not signed over any rights to the film, and Grissmer informed her that online retailers had it in multiple. Like, they had multiple releases of this, like through Netflix, Amazon. They had to sue for copyright infringement. Paperwork brought forth.
Wait, they had to sue Arrow?
This is them trying to get the restoration done. They're trying to figure out basically the ownership of the film.
Oh, but who are they suing?
They're suing. Who is it? It's Legacy and Aquarius.
Oh. Terry Levine at Aquarius.
Grissmer informed her online retailers had it. They had to sue for copyright infringement. Paperwork brought forth distribution deals with Prism and had made the movie available for release. The release was limited to Texas and Florida for a short period, but it was hard to track down due to the film being under multiple titles. They went after Amazon and Netflix as copyright infringers. Legacy and Aquarius defaulted on the case. The case ended up being settled, and they could properly register the copyright. Marianne kept good records to a point of them being the original papers from the 80s. There was a challenge in digging into all the copyright documents to confirm the ownership.
Yeah, it's called, if you want the boring reality, that's called chain of title.
Yeah.
It's literally the documents that prove your ownership, and it's beyond copyright. It'll be... it can be as simple as your name on the release forms of the actors so that it proves that, you were working on it in a capacity like that. It really, it can be such a nightmare.
Well, that was the thing. So John Stanley is Marianne Cantor's partner for the production, and John Grissmer, John Stanley, and the Arrow rep are on the commentary, and Stanley tells the story where I got that information from. He says that having to look under all those titles because there's even a couple that he named that I'd never even heard of, and now I can't remember what they are. But he had to literally look under all those titles and then register it under all those titles as well.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on 1987's Blood Rage?
I mean, I love the movie. It's a lot of fun. It's exactly what you would hope from an 80s Thanksgiving slasher movie.
Yeah.
You can't really get much better than that. So, I mean, it's a buy it if you love horror movies.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't want to buy it, you probably wouldn't want to watch it either.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's my thought.
Yeah, it's a buy it for me as well. Just the idea of how lost this film was, or just regulated to really crappy VHS bootlegs and whatnot. The fact that this Blu-ray is out now in a beautiful transfer, the bonus material that goes into so much detail for a 1987 slasher film, I have so much appreciation for. But the movie itself is a lot of fun. You're in and out in less than 80 minutes almost, basically, if you take the credits off. Really great kills, really fun characters, a really cool theme. I cannot recommend this enough. If you're an 80s slasher fan in general, this is the movie you absolutely want to see this November.
Yeah, fair point.
So we always like to end the show with a couple of recommendations. I have two this week as usual. The first one being The Mutilator, aka Fall Break from 1984.
Yeah, I kind of think of these two in kind of a similar way.
A college student who accidentally killed his mother as a child decides to take his friends to his father's fishing cabin during fall break, not knowing that his crazed father is stalking the place. You can watch The Mutilator currently on Screambox and Tubi. My other recommendation is Brian De Palma's film from 1972 entitled Sisters. A small-time reporter tries to convince the police she saw a murder in the apartment across from hers. Sisters is currently available on Max and Plex, and the reason I chose Sisters is because evil twins thing again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your recommendation, sir?
Oh, I hate all of you, so I'm going with Home Sweet Home.
Fucking Christ.
For those, the uninitiated, Home Sweet Home is kind of the original Thanksgiving slasher movie. It came out in 1981.
Yeah.
It is not available anywhere. You'll have to find it streaming illegally or something, because it's not even, you just can't get it.
We've been teased by Vinegar Syndrome about that one so much.
Well, it's quite an experience. From 1981, an escaped mental patient steals a station wagon and makes his way to the Bradleys' Thanksgiving celebration, where he plans to make them a little less thankful.
And Henrique, who is the psycho played by in this film?
Oh, this is why the movie is amazing. Jake Steinfeld plays the killer in this movie, which is, he became famous under the moniker Body by Jake, the fitness guru. But to make it funnier and more bizarre, you would think, oh yeah, like he's a big muscular guy, so like he probably had a mask on. No,
it's just him.
It's just, you watch the movie, it's just Body by Jake going around like like just murdering people.
You will know in the first 2 minutes if this movie is for you.
It's completely nuts. And then later on don't worry, there's a mime.
Yep. A son that's a mime that's a guitarist.
Yep,
named Mistake.
There's plenty for you to enjoy.
God damn.
Like I said, you can't watch it legally. There's just no way unless you own like a friggin' massively out of print VHS.
Yeah.
But if you can find Home Sweet Home, if you're a slasher movie completist,
it's one.
You probably will want to give it a watch. So that's my choice because screw y'all.
So do we have any emails by chance?
Probably.
Well, while you're doing that, would you like to know what we're talking about next week on the show?
Well, I mean, I have an email right here.
Oh, well, never mind then.
This one is from our good buddy Tyler.
Oh, awesome.
He sent in an email. It says, holiday movies. Hello, boys. How's it hanging? I wanted to say thank you. I fell behind on the show the last few weeks due to life stuff and just recently discovered my Bluetooth earbuds from the bowels of my couch.
I know that feeling.
People are pathetic.
What?
I always know where mine are.
Yeah.
I was able to get through a whole day at work listening to my two favorite movie nerds. Thanks for making my tolerable job even more so. Since Christmas is just around the corner, I wanted to suggest Hogfather, based on Terry Pratchett's Discworld series.
Heard about it.
I've seen it. It's pretty good.
Okay.
The best and simplest way I could explain this film is it's Death Saves Christmas. It's a magical fun time, and I think you guys would get a kick out of it. Take care, Tyler. P.S. Yes, Death does wear the suit.
I will definitely check that out.
Oh, it's
Tyler.
a fun one. I think I found that on Tubi not long ago, or Amazon Prime. That is a really fun one, The Hogfather.
Yes.
And if you guys want to email us, you could do so at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. You can also find everything else out about us at doyouevenmovie.com.
And I would like to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, as this is the wrap up for the
Even
November.
the non-Americans?
Even the non-Americans.
Okay, fair.
Happy holidays, happy whatever you celebrate, if anything.
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's much, yeah.
That's fair. But would you like to know what we are kicking off December with next week?
Why the hell not?
So we are, I think this was a request from Maurice? Somebody. This is a request from somebody. And we are going with The Long Kiss Goodnight, the action film with Samuel Jackson and Gina Davis that has Christmas in it, so it counts.
And it is a hell of a ride.
And if you have never seen it, it is available currently on Paramount Plus, so you can watch it before we talk about it next week. So that is going to be a very fun one. We've got a great lineup for December planned.
Yep, it seems that way.
So, do you have anything else to add?
Not a damn thing.
I don't either.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you for listening and watching. If you liked what you saw, subscribe either on the podcast feed or on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like and leave a comment. And we will see you next Tuesday.
That's not cranberry sauce.
I think it is.
It might be.